Today we're taking a look at the coziest, most relaxed games you can play on the Switch 2. The list is comprised entirely of relaxing, easygoing, light-paced, yet uniquely captivating games. We'll discuss how to stream games on the Switch 2 and which mood best suits them. In short, if you're looking for a relaxing distraction and something fun to play on the Switch 2, you're in the right place. Let's get started. BOKURA Planet features a structure where two people see completely different worlds, so the game's pacing is built on communication. This distinction is clearly felt on the Switch. One person notices a detail while the other is preoccupied with something entirely different, and progress requires a genuine exchange of ideas. The visual style seems a bit plain at first, but after a few levels, you realize the game's intention is to keep you focused on the puzzle without distraction. The differences between screens are the game's strongest point, but the menu doesn't have a particularly polished flow. It's a bit of a walkthrough, especially at the beginning. However, it doesn't create any significant disruption to gameplay. What I appreciated most was the game's constant push to think together. It's not a game you'd expect to play alone. Its value is revealed when two people try to solve the same problem with different components. In this respect, it largely meets my expectations on the Switch. Goodnight Universe, a game built on the unexpected mental abilities of a 6-month-old baby, initially appears calm, but gradually becomes more and more peculiar. The gameplay on the Switch can be a bit unstable, especially in sections requiring interaction through gestures and facial movements. The game presents these mechanics as an interesting idea, but sometimes delayed reactions have been noted. Despite this, the overall flow of the game progresses without these minor hiccups. The story isn't particularly intense, but the slow unfolding of the characters and events are part of its engaging nature. Some scenes may feel slow-paced, but it builds the atmosphere with small details and brief interactions. The overall impression is that the game lives up to expectations on the Switch, not with grandiose promises, but rather with its unique idea and slightly surreal approach. It offers a not-too-long experience that appeals to those seeking a unique narrative. The Switch 2 version of Yooka-Replaylee preserves the spirit of the old game while offering several significant improvements. The graphics are cleaner, the animation smoother, and the layout of the areas is more easily followed than in its predecessor. The placement of collectibles and the map layout have been particularly impressive, improving the flow of the game. However, the camera system isn't completely resolved. The angle can still occasionally shift unexpectedly on narrow platforms. In terms of performance, the Switch 2's performance is noticeable, but it's also worth noting that the game doesn't offer a truly fluid experience due to its 30 frames per second limit. The worlds are colorful and vibrant, but some areas feel a bit repetitive. However, the overall goal of the game isn't to emphasize high technical polish, but rather to embody classic 3D platforming within a more modern framework. From this perspective, the Switch 2 version largely meets the expectations of those familiar with the genre, but doesn't completely conceal its flaws. The Switch 2 version of Dave the Diver streamlines the game's two core elements, diving and gathering supplies during the day and running a restaurant at night, to a smoother pace. The technical improvements are most noticeable in the fluidity. Loading times have been reduced, and the frame rate is more stable during dives. This allows the game to maintain its rhythm, especially during deep dives. The dive sections remain slightly tense but smoothly paced. While the areas have expanded, the difficulty doesn't suddenly become intense. The game's focus is more on maintaining the sense of exploration. In the restaurant section, repetitive tasks are slightly more streamlined, with the ordering system and small automation steps, in particular, lightening the pace. The Switch 2 version doesn't offer any revolutionary innovations, but it does integrate the game's strengths into a more streamlined flow. It strikes a satisfying balance for those who prefer a relaxed management experience and a moderately dynamic exploration experience. Fantasy Life on Switch 2 combines a relaxed RPG with a light life simulation. The game's progression isn't based on fast-paced action. Organizing the island, Trying different life missions and unfolding the story by switching between two time periods form the core rhythm of the game. Resolution and overall fluidity have been significantly improved in the Switch 2 version, making the island's colorful and slightly pastel appearance appear cleaner. The mission structure is simple. Progressing in one profession doesn't completely cancel out another, reducing the pressure of what should I focus on. However, it's not a game with a particularly fast pace. Rebuilding the island and character development progress slowly but consistently. The combat aspect is quite basic, so it may not meet the expectations of those looking for intense action. However, for those who enjoy establishing order, gradually gaining strength, and experimenting with different roles, Switch 2 offers a highly enjoyable and smooth experience. Grand Bazaar on Switch 2 shifts the series' familiar farming approach to a more commercial focus. Weekly market preparation becomes the primary driver of the game's rhythm. Planning how to display produce plays a crucial role, as does growing and storing produce. The most noticeable aspect of the Switch 2 version is its fluidity. Day transitions, menu navigation, and inventory management are more responsive than in previous versions. The visuals aren't bold, but there's a clean color scheme. It's easy to follow what's happening on screen. The pace is slow, the farm's growth, the crop's value increase, and the growing market's influence all play out over time. This might make it a bit too light for those expecting a fast-paced life simulation. However, for those who prefer games with a regular, cyclical, and patient gameplay, the Switch 2 offers a smooth, flowing flow. This market-centric structure is different from other games in the series, but it's a welcome change. Two Point Museum combines the slightly chaotic yet enjoyable atmosphere of management games with the museum theme on Switch 2. The game isn't just about placing props when setting up exhibits. It incorporates layers like collecting collections, sending expeditions, and maintaining a balance of income and expenses. The visual quality is noticeably sharper in the Switch 2 version, but it's been reported that the frame rate can fluctuate as the museum grows. This doesn't make the game unplayable, but it does create a noticeable slowdown during intense sections. Control-wise, the cursor feel, ideal for management games, isn't always fully realized on Switch 2. Menu navigation and object placement can occasionally feel like a brief delay. Nevertheless, the game's humorous tone, relaxed pacing, and small moments of success in shaping the exhibits create a pleasant rhythm. For those who aren't looking for the depth of a large-scale simulation but still want a fun management experience, Switch 2 offers a satisfying experience. Guardians of Azuma on Switch 2 combines the series' familiar farming lifestyle with a more pronounced action element. Town building, production chains, and daily routines form the foundation of the game, while exploration areas and monster battles add a more dynamic pace. In the Switch 2 version, image quality and loading speeds have noticeably improved compared to the previous generation. The smoother transitions, particularly as the town expands, maintain the game's rhythm. Despite this, it's been said that the frame rate can occasionally drop in handheld mode, so it's unrealistic to expect a completely flawless flow on the technical front. While environmental details have been sharpened, some distant textures still feel like they're from the older generation. The story is simple, but the character interactions and mission variety are what carry the game. Tamagotchi Plaza, a game on the Switch 2, retains the classic Tamagotchi feel but prioritizes mini-games. The main objective is to progress by completing small tasks in different shops. The system is quite light, so the pace never becomes complex. The visuals are charming, the color palette is clean, and the animations flow smoothly thanks to the Switch 2's more powerful hardware. However, the gameplay depth is limited. Many shop tasks start to feel the same after a few replays. Most minigames offer short-term entertainment, but the satisfaction can diminish with longer sessions. The tutorials aren't very descriptive, requiring trial and error to understand what some tasks entail. Overall, it offers a smooth experience on the Switch 2 for those looking for something light and fun over intense mechanics. However, it may be a bit superficial for players who expect a sense of progression or depth. Chillin' by the Fire on Switch 2 revolves around a relatively relaxed concept: keeping a campfire burning, placing logs at the right angle, adjusting airflow, and keeping the fire balanced form the core of the game. It seems simple at first glance, but the fire's behavior is a bit more variable than one might expect, so a bit of trial and error is required. The Switch 2 version features cleaner visual clarity and lighting effects, adding a subtle atmosphere as you watch the fire grow. The single-player mode is quite limited. It's laid back but doesn't offer a long-term goal. The game finds its true meaning in multiplayer. Sitting with friends, stacking wood, and chatting while growing the fire creates a rhythm more suited to the game's intentions. The controls aren't always as precise as you'd expect. There can be slight drifts, especially when placing wood. Dear Me, I Was is a game built entirely on visual narrative, offering a short but powerful experience on the Switch 2. Interactivity is very limited. The game progresses more like a series of flashbacks. The watercolor textured drawings and rotoscope animations look quite sharp on the Switch 2 screen, and this aesthetic, especially during cutscenes, becomes the game's true weight. The story depicts the turning points in a woman's life without using dialogue or text, and strives to convey this without explanation. It's quite short in length. Being a single-session game, it might feel light for those expecting a long-running experience. The gameplay is minimal, so the interactive movie feel can sometimes overwhelm. Conversely, if you appreciate experiences that convey emotion through imagery and movement, the Switch 2 stands out as a clean, fluid, and clearly intentioned work. Hello Kitty Island Adventure offers a light life simulation setting on Switch 2, combining island exploration and friendship. The game unfolds gradually, unfolding a vast island divided into different biomes. Each area has its own small mechanics, collectibles, and character quests. The visual clarity and frame rate in the Switch 2 version are more consistent than in the previous version, making the island's colorful atmosphere appear smoother. The quest structure is uncomplicated. Decoration, gift-giving, and bonding with characters constitute the majority of the gameplay. This approach creates a sense of leisurely wandering rather than long-term depth. Mini-games provide brief moments of entertainment, but can become repetitive in longer sessions. However, the diversity of the island theme and the warm tone of the character interactions make the game a pleasant escape on Switch 2. LEGO Voyagers on Switch 2 features a relatively relaxed gameplay based on a two-player puzzle exploration experience. You navigate levels by guiding two small LEGO brick characters together. Most of the puzzles are designed to be impossible to complete alone, so cooperation is at the heart of the game. The Switch 2 version offers a particularly clear clarity in lighting and material textures, with the shimmer of LEGO surfaces and ambient shadows adding a pleasant touch to the game's simple atmosphere. On the gameplay front, while the puzzles are enjoyable, the content isn't particularly intense. You can imagine it as a multi-hour experience. The camera angle and rolling feel can feel a bit clunky at times, especially when precise isometric movement is required. However, the game's primary goal isn't fast-paced action. It's about establishing a rhythm where two players can think together and move slowly. In this respect, the Switch 2 offers a clean, responsive, and short but sweet co-op experience. The Touryst Deluxe is a prime example of how an exploration-focused game can be calm, yet engaging on the Switch 2. The game is primarily about wandering through interconnected islands, solving small puzzles, and finding hidden spots. The voxel-style graphics have become much cleaner thanks to the Switch 2's enhanced rendering, particularly improving clarity in light and shadow transitions. The mission structure isn't overly complex, with a pace where you encounter something new every time you say, "Let's take a look here." This might be a bit too light for those seeking fast-paced action. The game's rhythm relies on indirect exploration. Some islands lack guidance, which can sometimes leave you feeling like, "Where should I go now?" Despite this, the warmth of the visual design and the island's little secrets make the game an enjoyable tour. If you're looking for a short but engaging exploration experience on the Switch 2, the Deluxe Edition delivers it well. Broken Sword Shadow of the Templars, Reforged on Switch 2, offers a reminder of why classic adventure games remain so valuable. The core of the game remains unchanged. The progression continues with a global exploration, guided by conversations and clues. However, the visuals in Reforged have been significantly updated. The clarity of the artwork, animation transitions, and stage lighting appear cleaner thanks to the Switch 2's power. The game's 4K presentation, especially in TV mode, feels like a significant upgrade over its predecessor. The gameplay remains relaxed, the puzzles don't demand explanation, but demand attention. The controls, too, largely retain their old-school feel. While analog selections are available, the gameplay remains most comfortable with cursor-like controls. Despite this, the dialogue writing, the spatial atmospheres, and the step-by-step unfolding of the story create a remarkably fluid experience on Switch 2. And that concludes our list of cozy games you can play on Switch 2. I hope this has given you some guidance as you decide which game to play. These kinds of calming, mind-opening games can sometimes be just the break we need. If you enjoyed the list, or if there's a cozy game you'd like to add, be sure to leave a comment. Discovering new relaxing spots together is always more enjoyable. Thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you on your next cozy journey.